Hello, everyone. I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we're meeting and where I am in Melbourne today, the people of the Bunurong and Woiwurrung Nation. Our First Nations people have had a long struggle for justice and recognition, and that continues to this day. I pay my respects to leaders past, present, and emerging. My name is Karen Percy, and I'm the Media President of the Media Entertainment and Arts Alliance, which represents more than 5,000 journalists and media workers in Australia. Mine is a voluntary position, but it's one I take very seriously at a time when the work of journalists has never been more important, but it's also never been more under threat. I'm new to this role of Media President of MEAA. I was elected earlier this year, and I stood on a platform of diversity, equality, unity, and integrity. And I'm going to touch on each of these things today as I chat to you. But firstly, I wish to congratulate NRI Affairs for your first year of operations. New ventures like this in the media sector are really rare, so your success is to be celebrated. And I know you have a small team and your resources are limited, so well done. You are, of course, an important voice for your own community, but just as importantly, you bring a really crucial perspective to the broader community. It's so important that the Australian media better reflect the society in which we live. As a nation, we talk a lot about our multicultural successes, but these successes, in my view, in reality, can be quite shallow. We don't do enough really to truly represent all of the great nations, religions, backgrounds, and experiences of the people who make up our great country. When I first started as a journalist in 1987, I was what was seen as diverse. The media was still very much a man's world. Now, it's improved a lot over the years. Women make up the majority of Australia's media industry these days, and there are senior women in management, but our industry is still very male-dominated at the top. The gender pay gap is still high in our industry, around 16%, and wage levels overall are falling. Now, one of the key issues for MEAA as a union is to uphold wages and conditions in our sector to ensure that laws are being followed. Equal pay for equal work is about as basic as it gets, yet we still have such a long way to go to achieve gender equality. But of course, this is also an issue for all media workers. Now, more and more men and women of diverse backgrounds are now working as journalists or otherwise in the media. But we know we need to do better. We need to be recruiting from different ethnic, linguistic, and cultural backgrounds. Of course, we need people from different genders, from the LGBTQIA plus community, different socioeconomic backgrounds, those who are neurodivergent, those who live with disability, and so much more. Change happens slowly, as we know, too slowly. Part of the problem is that we don't actually really know what our industry is like, what the cultural and ethnic makeup is like for starters. How many journalists live with disability who are from modest backgrounds who went to private schools. So we've got a lot of work to do to really understand the extent of the problem of the lack of representation. Now, MEAA is working with the organisation of Media Diversity Australia to better understand the racial and ethnic makeup of the industry in the first instance. And a survey is going to be taking place in the coming months to endeavour to get a really better read on that. MEAA is also working with journalists in major media outlets to introduce diversity clauses into their enterprise bargaining agreements, and that should lead to the hiring of more diverse staff. We've also produced guidelines on hate speech, as well as how to report on issues affecting the LGBTIQ plus community. We are committed to improving our industry because we know we have not done enough to date. We're looking to partner with social justice organisations to help them deliver media and ethics training to emerging leaders in diaspora communities. They often have difficulty navigating the media. But it's not enough just to look and sound different. We actually need to be different. Diversity is not the same as inclusion. We must understand other perspectives and take those perspectives on board. We also need to ensure that everyone can look forward to a long, fulfilling career with stable, well-paid jobs in our sector and opportunities for everybody to advance, regardless of who you are and where you're from. Ethics is something that is very dear to my heart, and MEAA's Code of Ethics was established in the 1940s, and it stands as one of the world's first set of guidelines for journalists. It's a document that makes clear how journalists should operate to ensure fairness, accuracy, and ethical reporting. This is the integrity part of today's speech. We have a trust deficit in the media and we need to address it. Ethical reporting that's in the public interest is what sets journalism apart from gossip mongering and propaganda. As journalists, we take this seriously. Being a journalist comes with rights, but it also comes with considerable responsibilities. Just as we have an obligation to be fair and accurate, we must also be transparent and accountable. We are seeing more and more news outlets explaining how they gather news and how they write the news, why they might take an editorial stance on an issue, or why they report an issue a certain way. There are many different media outlets that have different viewpoints on matters. There always have been. It's crucial, though, that readers, audiences understand that. So being honest, accountable, and transparent about our aims, about how we go about our jobs and why is really important in regaining trust with our audiences. It's imperative that we recognise our blind spots, that we admit to our mistakes, and that we engage with our audiences in an authentic way. Monday is World Press Freedom Day. We know around the world journalists are at risk of their lives, they're at risk of assault, imprisonment, banishment. We know we're lucky in Australia. In the main, we live in a safe society. But we have also seen a rise in physical attacks on journalists here, as well as a rise in online abuse, particularly aimed at women, journalists of colour, or those with a disability, or those who are gay. And press freedom in Australia is in peril. Reporters Without Borders reports that press freedom here is fragile. We are ranked 25th in the world for press freedom. In 2018, we were ranked 19th. We are falling. Our leaders duck and weave, refusing to answer questions or only appearing on sympathetic media outlets or claiming fake news. Our defamation laws are used to stop exposés, to silence criticism. Freedom of information processes are abused. Our national security laws have been used as a barrier to getting to the truth. Journalists and whistleblowers increasingly find themselves at risk of jail. All of this makes it very hard for journalists to do their jobs effectively. It's all the harder in the light of the job cuts and the financial pressures experienced at many outlets. So here's where I talk about unity, how important it is as journalists and media outlets to stand together to demand more from our leaders, as well as members of the community. Together, we must demand that our political leaders who have the power to uphold press freedom do exactly that, respect and honour the role of journalists and the principles of press freedom, that they put transparency and accountability at the heart of government and society. And now is the perfect time to do just that. Politicians are asking for your vote. They want something from you. So let's ask something of them. Let's ask what they are doing about press freedom and what they will do to let journalists do their jobs. So as you go about your celebrations today, I ask that you also reflect on the duties you have as journalists and those of you who are members of Australian society more generally to ensure that our democracy is robust. Thank you and have a great celebration.